during the session, we will have opportunity for you to ask questions. At this point, we'll go ahead and have you put it in the chat box. And if we do have verbal exchange, we will ask for hands to be raised. And if you're not sure about that, go again, it's located at the bar on the bottom of your screen, or it could be at your top of your screen under participants. And when you click into that, you'll see the icon for raising hands. So let us go ahead and begin. A second here, get adjusted to my screen. There we go. Okay, so we are well into May, and this workshop is exciting because it does address policy advocacy. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background on growing prevention. This is hosted by Behavioral Health Services South Bay, and through their sponsorship and partnership with several agencies, we're able to host Growing Prevention, and the partner agencies are Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD, LA County Office of Education, LACO, Friday Night Live Partnership, Asian American Drug Abuse Program, or ADAP, and South Bay Communities Creating Change, the SBC3 Coalition. And Growing Prevention series is funded by the Los Angeles County Department of Health, Substance Abuse Prevention and Control. Growing Prevention Growing Prevention is an online workshop series through Zoom, and it's designed to develop substance abuse professionals, community members, elected officials, law enforcement agencies, parents on topics that will enhance their careers, communities, and homes through education, connection, and resources. Our workshop presenters today will be addressing policy advocacy through local and state coalition. I'm excited to introduce our two workshop presenters, as they are passionate and seasoned community advocates on drug abuse prevention. I've had the distinct pleasure of working with both Brenda and Gilbert over the years through various projects and coalitions on county and statewide policy efforts. Brenda Villanueva is the co-chair of the Los Angeles Alcohol and Drug Policy Alliance, or LADAPA. LADAPA is a Los Angeles citywide group working to pass policy to reduce the impacts of alcohol and drugs in the lives of young people. As a program director for Pueblo y Salud, Brenda works to educate communities on the impacts of drug and alcohol in the cities of San Fernando, Pacoima, and North Hollywood. Gilbert Mora is the co-chair of the statewide coalition, California Alcohol Policy Alliance, or CAPA. Gilbert possesses 28 years of experience working with at-risk youth and substance abuse treatment and prevention. Gilbert is currently the prevention coordinator for the Behavioral Health Services Hollywood Family Recovery Center. It is my pleasure to introduce Brenda Villanueva and Gilbert Mora. Hold on, let me stop my share and we will have you go ahead and upload your screens. And Brenda and Gilbert, are you guys ready to go?
Ready when y'all are.
Ready. Let me just share my screen.
Dad's on a meeting. Jalen, remember Jalen's wallet? I got this full certifier. That's on my door. I don't forget that. No, I got Coach wallet. Somewhere. Okay, there. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Oh. All right, people, may the 4th be with you. Ha, he can all laugh. Uh, so this is our presentation in PowerPoint form. Policy advocacy through local and state coalitions. I am Gilbert Mora. As you can see in my picture, I was getting ready to go shopping at the market, so that was in full gear. And then my co-chair is, my co-presenter is Brenda Villanueva. She's the co-chair of LA DAPA.
Hello, y'all.
Hi,
Okay.
hi, hi.
So the objectives of this are going to be participants will be able to explain policy advocacy in terms of coalition work. They will be able to understand how coalitions are important to policy advocacy. They'll be able to recognize the importance of state and local coalitions and be able to make the connection between policy advocacy and social justice. And lastly, understand the various benefits of being part of a coalition. So what does policy advocacy mean to you? Go ahead and answer in the chat box as you see fit.
So Rebecca Archer said advocate for change at the government level.
Yeah, that's a very good answer.
Alma Huerta said advocating or fighting for policies that benefit and empower communities.
Definitely, that's what we're shooting for.
And let's see, ooh, move fast. Okay, let's see, we have Stephen trying to shift the social norms through local laws. Cassandra empowering communities to use their voice to advocate for change, whether local or statewide. Let's see,
Most
we
definitely.
have, let me see. I'm sorry. Organizations who come together to share resources, support each other, and create movements. That's from Cynthia Martinez. Richard says organize, organize, organize. And Michael Salazar says working with other organizations and advocates to speak to elected and other officials in order to change policy and programs.
Those are all good answers.
They're all great answers.
Yeah. All right. So what is a coalition? Well, basically a coalition is an organization of organization or a group of groups. So in order to be involved in a coalition, you basically have to be representing some kind of other organization or group, because that's what a coalition is. Why are coalitions important? Well, they help us build power. In other words, there's power in numbers. Better media, because the larger the group, the more recognition they get. So if we all show up to City Hall wearing blue shirts saying, you know, change this, you know, eventually the media is going to recognize, oh, that's a large group. I wonder what they're about. And then they'll ask more questions about us. And, you know, with coalitions, you can devise more effective strategies because you have more resources among all the organizations, which comes to, increased large resources, larger numbers. And then with larger numbers come larger victories. You know, if your coalition gets big enough, you can get pretty powerful and be able to, quote unquote, influence legislators, because then they realize, hey, these people have the backing of my community, and those people vote me in, so maybe I should be listening. And technically we don't lobby, but you can advocate as a collective. But if you have members that aren't, quote unquote, funded by the government, you know, either federally, state, or city, or county, yeah, they can lobby. They can say what they want and do as they want. And as a coalition, you can help guide them in the messaging and how they can possibly message that. So levels of policy advocacy. There's the federal level, the state level, the county level, the city level, and the community neighborhood level. And, you know, through LADAPA and CAPA, we've pretty much hit all of them except for the federal level. In the community level, I mean, we're often at neighborhood councils, you know, advocating for a certain policy so that they could actually back our play whenever we decide we want to advocate to the city hall, which comes up to the city. And we can also advocate to the county by going to the Board of Supervisors meetings. And we've done that many a times, especially like during Prop 64 and things like that. We advocated to the city, and also with SB 58, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. And SB 58, which is a statewide initiative, we've lobbied at the Sacramento. I keep saying lobby. We advocated. We weren't technically lobbying. We were educating our legislators so they understood the issue well enough to be able to see that we were right and they were wrong. Any questions so far? Feel free to write whatever you need in the chat box. I'll take that as a no, so we will move on. Okay, so have you guys heard of LADAPA? What do you know about LADAPA? Answer that question in the box. And then
Other than us being notorious at City Hall,
yeah.
what else have you heard?
Also, feel free to raise your hand. So to raise your hand, you go down to participants and then you just click raise hand and we'll be able to unmute you to participate.
Let's see. Stephen shared that that he attends city council meeting, and Michael shared he confesses, I don't know very much about LADAPA, so this is a good experience then.
This is gonna be great for you because you're gonna find out a lot about it today. So that's good. That's good, Beth.
Oh, Monica shared 4 a.m. bar bill opponents. Likana, I've never heard of it. And Nancy said, I don't know much also. So take it away.
Okay,
All
Brenda,
right, let's go.
all you.
All right, here we go. Can you change the slide, please? All right, so pretty much Los Angeles Alcohol Policy Alliance, we mostly focus on LA city policy, but we've also kind of started expanding a little more on county-wide issues. But for the most part, the bulk of our advocacy has been related to the city of Los Angeles. So our mission is basically the Los Angeles Drug and Alcohol Policy Alliance promotes evidence-based public health policies and organizes campaigns with diverse communities and youth against the alcohol industry's harmful practices. Our vision is that we envision a healthy communities free from negative impacts of alcohol and other drugs. So right now, although a lot of the bulk of our work has focused mostly on alcohol policy, we're also looking to branch out to also tackle some of the other drugs that impact LA communities. For example, right now with you know, the expansion of marijuana dispensaries and how that's rolling out in the city of LA, that's something that we will explore further down the line. But that's basically our mission and our vision as a coalition. Next slide, please. So a little bit of history on how LADAPA actually started. Even before I joined prevention, back in 2013, 2014, it actually started as the Coalition to Ban Alcohol Ads in the city of Los Angeles. And it all came out from a shared concern between community members and public health policy advocates that, you know, had a concern about the excess of alcohol ads on public property. So it really started off from that shared common goal, and they were able to go ahead and pass pretty much an ordinance that banned alcohol ads on all bus benches and public property in the city of LA. So that was a huge victory. But the good thing about that is that that allowed them to basically not only establish themselves as a coalition, but it kind of showed the power behind rallying, the power behind, you know, having different community members, different organizations come together with a common goal, and it actually put them on the map with LA City Council. So that kind of just gave birth to Los Angeles Drug and Alcohol Policy Alliance, and it jump-started the policy advocacy efforts around alcohol issues. And well, now adding the drug into the name, we're gonna also tackle other drug policy issues. But that's basically where LA DAPA was born out of. It came from one shared concern. They were able to really rally around it, push it, and, you know, make it happen. And it just came about that, you know what, there's other policy issues in the city of LA. How can we advocate for those? How can we move the community to rally with those issues? And hence now we have LA DAPA. Next slide, please. So currently we have 4 committees in LA DAPA. We have the Communications Committee, the Policy Committee, the Community Committee, and the Research Committee. Currently, the co-chairs of each one, we have Jasmine Garcia from KYCC, who is chairing the Communications Committee. We have Cassandra Meraz from Puebla Salud, who's chairing the Policy Committee. We have, Jasmine is Communications would actually be Raul, who represents Alcohol Justice, and then Research is Nico Patiño, who is part of the Wallace Memorias Project. With me, Sarah Blanche is also co-chair, and then we have Maurina Cintron from IPS as well, who is the secretary. So we have a pretty well-rounded group, and we also have Gilbert and Veronica, who represent CAPA. So we try to not only focus on local issues, but we expand to state issues. But those are the committees that we currently have in place. So just to kind of share a little more in depth of what the committees do. For the Communications Committee, we mostly focus on creating the media content around it. When there's a press conference, they put the press kits together. They basically get all the talking points that policy committee comes up with and the data, and they put it together so that we can give it out to the media. They manage the social media accounts, and they work on informing community through action alerts. Currently on social media, where you could find LA DAPA would be Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So up on the screen, you can see pretty much the usernames that we have for each of them. So with Facebook, it would be LA DAPA. And then for both Twitter and Instagram, we have at Los Angeles DAPA. So you could go ahead and follow us if you haven't yet. And you can definitely keep up to date with the work that we're doing and other organizations that are involved and some of the campaigns that we are currently rolling out. On the next committee, Community Committee, they work with community groups and members to build capacity on policy and advocacy, educate and engage community members, and we aim to mobilize the resources and skills of community members in order to reduce drug and alcohol related harm in Los Angeles. We currently have a pretty good group of moms who have joined LA DAPA, and they've been moving forward in a lot of the rallying. They've been more growing in talking points, growing in how they advocate for their communities. They bring issues and other concerns that maybe we haven't heard of yet, and then we're able to kind of connect with the community a little more because they're more involved in the coalition and they have more of a voice. But it's really cool to see how it's grown out of that and seeing other groups other than public health advocates be a part of LA DAPA. So Community Committee is where we build on those. In the next committee, the Research Committee, we build strategies for policy initiatives and we use data to develop information packets. So a lot of the media kits that we roll out when we have these press conferences or when we have rallies, the Research Committee is the one that gathers all that information. We are blessed to be working with PoorSafe as well, as they have been able to gather very localized data when it comes to alcohol concentration and crime data that's related to that we use not only in LA, but throughout the state. So we work with alcohol beverage and control data as well, and just any of the local, state, and federal entities that we may have when it comes to data. So research committee is the one that basically puts that together. And then our next committee, policy committee. So work to engage policymakers, community stakeholders, and community members. And we advocate for safe and healthy communities through alcohol and other drug policies. They also track alcohol and drug legislation in Los Angeles. So in the policy committee, that's where we develop the talking points. We stay up to date with how the motions, the ordinances are moving forward. They're the committee that's basically in charge of setting up a lot of the meetings that we have with a lot of our local legislators, our local officials, and that's basically where we have a lot of the bulk of the work when it comes to advocating and work, having that face-to-face contact with not only community groups, but particularly government officials, whether it be a state representative or a local city councilman. Next slide, please. So some of the campaigns that we are currently working on right now, the alcohol restricted use sub-district, which as I move on along, we're gonna talk about how that's actually evolved, but that's basically a motion that we were trying to push, which would emphasize a land use tool that protects vulnerable communities that have an excessive amount of alcohol retailers. So if you've never heard of ARIS, basically what that motion entailed, and it was to basically get a report back on a tool, land use tool that would basically be able to zone out different areas in districts in the city of Los Angeles, whether it be a particular council district or throughout the city. But basically, it would just highlight certain areas that were either impacted by crime, they were already oversaturated, or had major negative impacts from alcohol outlets. So it was gonna allow for the basically the council members to zone out that area so that no more alcohol licenses would come in. It wouldn't particularly take out the other ones or anything, but it would at least kind of put a hold on more alcohol outlets coming in. But basically it was just a report back when the motion was set. We're also kind of working on the restaurant beverage program motion. Basically, this motion is seeking to expedite alcohol licenses, in particular for restaurants, but it's trying to take away community input out of the picture, and it's kind of giving them an easier access to obtain the license. And then, of course, believing in empowered neighborhoods, which is a more formalized campaign that evolved from alcohol restricted use sub-district, because the motion did not go through, but we were able to revamp it, and now it's an initiative that will allow communities to have a voice to fight against the industries such as alcohol and cannabis, but we're still gonna basically implement the alcohol restricted use sub-district in a much more developed, not only campaign, but a much more intelligent motion to be a little more specific, and we're just revamping it. So to go to the next slide, basically we had an LA DAPA summit this year, as we did last year, and we basically, it gave us the opportunity as a coalition to go back to the drawing board and see how we could revamp the ARIS motion and basically formalize a much broader campaign to be able to push forward what we wanted intentionally with the ARIS motion. So with that being said, we were able to come back, all the different committees, and that's how BN was basically born. And we thought that we should basically not only try to implement this tool, but see how we can formulate it in a way that's adaptable, moldable, so that we can also include marijuana dispensaries into the picture at a much later date. What I like about being able to come back to the drawing board and being able to, you know, have these 2 days to reformulate, restructure everything, it allowed us to not only break down ideas within each of the communities, but it allowed us to see what victories and successes we had had up to that point, and where we could improve as a coalition, and how we could incorporate other members to really push forward the goals that we have as a coalition. We are currently working on that campaign, and you will see a little bit more of it throughout social media and stuff, but basically we are gonna restructure ARIS, and we're gonna formulate a new motion with it, which is now going to be called the Neighborhood Empowering Tool. So stay tuned for that. We're still definitely going to be able to mold it and we're still going to build on that, not only from the summit, but the work that we're going to continue to do. Do you see any similarities from the work that we have done as LA Tapa with the coalitions that you guys are a part of? I know that some of you probably do not work in the city of LA or do not have advocacy at the LA city level, but maybe you do within your city, or all of us are a part of our own SPA coalitions. So if you could put it on the chat box, what are some of the similarities that you see between LA Tapa and the work that you do with your respective coalitions?
So we'll give people a moment to reply in chat box. So Andre said to educate the community we serve. And Sacom said the amazing smaller teams that help move different aspects of LA DAPA. Great work.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
All right, so moving on. One of the cool things that also came out of LA DAPA, as we talked about the history, how it evolved, one of the cool things that it also brought forth was CAPA. CAPA actually moving more at the state level, that came about from a lot of the work that was done through LA DAPA. So one of the ways that we've been able to push forward the work at the state level is that we support a lot of the CAPA work, and the great victory of having the 4 a.m. bar bill not only drop down to 3 a.m. bar bill, but also be defeated yet again, is that as LA DAPA, we were able to rally in different cities of LA and even throughout the county of LA, and we were able to pass the 4 a.m. bar bill resolution, LA resolution. So Councilmember Koretz basically introduced the motion, and the city council, I believe it was a 10-2 vote on it. And so we were able to pass that. And once LA said no, that's when pretty much the 4 a.m. bar bill was done for. So great work. And I know that there's a lot of people in on this webinar that were a part of that, not only through LA DAPA, but just like your membership with CAPA as well. So being able to push that at a local level allowed us to defeat it at the state level. So LA DAPA has been a good coalition and a good arm for a lot of the CAPA work that is being put out there and being done. So with that, moving on, if you either want to be a little more involved with either LA city level, if you're not already a part of LA DAPA, but also county level, if you want to be a part of LA DAPA and see how else we could collaborate and want to connect with us, here is the LA DAPA email address, there's the phone number, and just so you know, we still do meet every third Thursday of every month. Right now, I know we got technology, so we still meet via Zoom or via Google Meet, so that's still moving forward. But if you want to connect with us, feel free to reach out, and at the end of the presentation, we'll also put my email and ways that you could connect with us.
Okay, so is there any statewide advocacy you've participated in? Any of the participants right now? And go ahead, just leave your answers in the chat box.
So Jamie says 4 a.m. barbell kappa. And Rhonda says, thanks, Brenda. Keep up the great advocacy work.
Thank you.
And someone's hammering, putting up a picture in your house.
Yeah. You know, life for me is work, but then, you know, there's stuff going outside. So.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Okay. Any other?
So someone says advocating for more funding for prevention work.
Oh, nice. I'm not opposed to that idea.
Okay.
So that seems to be it for right now.
All right, let's move on. Okay, so CAPA, the California Alcohol Policy Alliance. So the mission of CAPA is to unite diverse organizations and communities in California to protect health and safety and prevent alcohol-related harms throughout statewide action. So basically, CAPA is LADAPA on steroids, because we get to go to Sacramento and talk to state legislators and on a larger scale. You know, LADAPA, we talk with the city, but you know, LA City is pretty huge, and what LA City does, the state kind of listens to, but we also need to get a hold of all those other people involved in the state. So CAPA's platforms. CAPA has come up with these platforms that they're gonna pursue in the future. The first one is charge for harm. It's basically asking for higher taxes and higher prices on alcohol, which is a very hard thing to do because anytime you try to put taxes on alcohol, the alcohol industry really fights back hard, and they've got a lot of money to do it. Limit alcohol advertising, especially on government-controlled property. So, you know, there's not too many places you can go without seeing an alcohol ad, you know, whether it be, you know, beer, wine, or, you know, spirits, you know, it's depending on where you're at, you're going to see certain kind of alcohol ads. Make ABC effective, transparent, and accountable. So if any of you worked in alcohol, you know that ABC is, you know, somewhat ineffective in their job. They you know, and it's due to a lot of different things, you know, lack of funding, the idea that they only get their funding from alcohol licensing, and you know, they have like a high turnover too. You know, they can't seem to keep people for too long because, you know, once, you know, people realize they can get a higher paying job, they'll move on. So, you know, we're trying to help ABC kind of do some, you know, give them suggestions on how to reform and how to do things and be a little more transparent so that we can actually help them in their job, because, you know, we don't want them to fail. We actually want them to succeed. Eliminate products oriented to underage youth and vulnerable populations. So as many of you know, things like Alka-Pops, you know, back in the day, I mean, they're still around, but, you know, they're not as prevalent as they used to be, you know. And there was that thing called, I don't know if any of you realize, buzz balls, those little tiny, you know, baseball sized alcohol drinks that were like so potent. It's like 15-20% alcohol in that tiny little thing. And they're one of those things that, you know, if kids walked into the store, they could actually just pocket it and walk out with it without nobody actually knowing that they took it. So we're always on the outlook for the new and improved. And, you know, the new and improved now is, you know, White Claw. You know, everybody wants to drink that seltzer. And, you know, so badly that even, you know, Budweiser and other companies have jumped on board. So it's like, a lot of these are these fruity flavored stuff that, you know, appeal mostly to young people, you know, getting them initiated into using alcohol. All right, our next platform would be 0.5 Saves Lives. And we've been debating this one lately and trying to figure out how we could institute a 0.5 BAC level and still be, socially responsible and not hurting people of color and working class people that, might get caught by this, lowering of the BAC. And then the final one is approved labeling and out-of-home advertising of all alcohol products to ensure that, that they're, oops, sorry. Whoa. They're not geared towards kids and things like that. So that's CAPA and its platforms. And these are statewide initiatives. We're trying to change the state and how they do things and how they operate. So this is the makeup of CAPA. CAPA has a 21-member steering committee made up of organizations across California. There are over 40 member organizations and hundreds of volunteers. CAPA has been around for about 5 years. It in a weird way grew out of LA DAPA and realizing that we needed a statewide platform for our already powerful city platform. You could only do so much in the city. It has 6 platform positions for alcohol prevention, and it's dedicated to diversity. So we're trying to include everybody in the conversation, not just, affluent people that are affluent and, that you find at the Capitol all the time. So the California Policy Alliance. We meet on a regular basis. We talk about different things. Our main objectives are to monitor state legislation, to make sure that they're not trying to pass things that would inadvertently harm, the community, whether it be through public health or public safety. We have quarterly meetings with ABC, which is, something that we just started doing about 2 years ago. And we're working with them to try to do these reforms that we were talking about earlier, to ensure that, ABC is, effectively administering their mandate to, monitor and regulate alcohol across the state. We meet with state legislators all the time. We're always going to the Capitol and walking around the halls and talking about the different legislations that we are interested in them talking about, and hopefully, seeing our point of view on it, whether it be for or against. And we advocate on state legislation. So like the 4 a.m. bar bill, which, is going to keep coming up because that's the biggest one that we've been battling forever. And we use things like Poor Safe data system to help us, educate these legislators and understand that, look, alcohol density is a real thing. And when you look at alcohol density, you can actually track crime too, because wherever there's a dense amount of alcohol outlets, there usually is a dense amount of crime. So we try to let legislators know about that. So if you're interested in seeing what Poor Safe's about, this is the website. Just look up Poor Safe and it'll direct you to this website. And it has a lot of little handy tools that, it maps out things. It can break it down by district, it can break it down by neighborhood, city, county, whatever you want to break it down by. And then it'll map it out for you and show you, where all the alcohol licenses at, how many upcoming alcohol licenses are coming up, what kind of alcohol licenses are there. And then it has an overlay of criminal crime data. So you can see the correlation between, the density of alcohol and the correlation of high crime. And it's really remarkable how quickly you can see the two and how they work. It's really, really, really interesting when you put the two together, how high the correlation is.
And I also would like to add that the beautiful thing about PoorSafe too is that you could really centralize data. You could really get down to either, at least for the for the city of LA, you could be very specific to a council district, or you could even break it down to like a census tracker. So it's very useful. So if you get a chance, do check it out. It would be www.poorsafe.com. But it's just something really nice to look at and see how centralized the data could be, whether it is on alcohol concentration or the crime data that's connected to that. So just wanted to kind of emphasize that.
Yeah. So like I said, you could break it down into, he gives you very, very different options. You know, you could break it down to by neighborhood, by city, by council district, by census tract, by, you know, there's a bunch of different ways you can break it down. And he makes it very easy for you to do that. And this is how we advocate a lot of times with our rallies and our marches. And I don't know who that girl is because her hair is way too long.
Better days, better days.
Yeah, different days, not better. Different days, different days, different days.
True.
And this is us in City Hall showing our strength in numbers. We go up to there and we go do public comment, and you know, we bring everybody, and you know, we get as many people in as possible to speak on it. This is us working in the city of Carson on the 4 a.m. bar bill. Mike Gibson was the state assembly member that we were targeting that day. This is some of our mothers and a lot of our different partners. And, you know, we brought them a lot of data so they could understand, hey, this is not a good idea. We hope that you can understand why we would feel this is not a good idea for the state to be doing. And, you know, somebody, that was a cool ass poster. I never saw that. Never mind. Anyways, sorry. And this is here. This is us at the Capitol. Again, showing them data saying, hey, look, this is what's going to happen if you allow what the DOIs will look like if we push everything to 4 a.m. It'll basically shift everything across. These are some of our alcohol justice and CAPA members. You can see Veto in the middle, Richard Zaldivar, Mike Sipa, Bruce Livingston, Jorge Castillo, and Carson, our data guy. He's awesome. He knows everything there is to know about data. So CAPA campaigns. This is how hard we fight. Just to give you a brief breakdown. This 4 a.m. bar bill has had 3 renditions in less than 5 years. And it's all been pushed by one senator, Senator Wiener. The first time he pushed it through, it was Senate Bill 905, the 4 a.m. bar bill. It was just meant to extend from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. We tried to get a lot of people involved and stuff. And luckily for us, one of our state assemblymen in charge of appropriations kind of said, yeah, this is not a good idea. And so she gutted it. She turned it into was it a study? Yeah, a study. You know, let's see what it would be like. And so at that time, he gave up on it. So the following year, he came back and he renamed it with a few tweaks. And he says, okay, this is going to be a pilot program for, I'm sorry, it's not 9 cities, 7 cities. And he named the cities and he got the mayors to come on board and say, yes, we want it. Da, 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 da. And he got it from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. to extend it. And it made it all the way through and got to the Governor Jerry Brown's desk. And Jerry Brown, on the recommendation of the California Highway Patrol, who said, yeah, this is probably not a good idea, said, you know what? I'm vetoing this. And there wasn't enough majority to override the veto, so it basically died. And Jerry Brown wrote in a famous memoir, so like nothing good happens after 2 a.m. So he kind of made his feelings felt. It's like, you know, it was not a necessary thing to do. So he went back to the drawing board and he came back again and called it SB 58. Same exact bill, a few tweaks here and there, but then he added a couple more cities, Cathedral City and Coachella and Fresno, and tried to push it through again. This time we were ready for him because we had already fought it once before, and we kind of said, hey, let's knock one of the legs out of his stance. He keeps saying that Los Angeles City wants it. Los Angeles City wants it. Oh, really? Let's find out if Los Angeles City wants it. So we lobbied I'm sorry, I keep using that word. We advocated to our council members in LA City and said, hey, do you guys want this? And they all looked at us like, no, we didn't ask for this. And, you know, I don't think it'd be a good idea. And we eventually got the resolution passed saying that LA City will not participate in this pilot program. Well, since LA City didn't participate, you know, it kind of killed the bill because they're like, well, if the biggest city in California doesn't want it, then why are we even going through with this? And another thing that happened is that once again, it went through appropriations, and appropriations amended the bill and said, hey, make it 3 a.m., thinking that would kill it, but it obviously didn't. He still pushed it through. And ironically, at 3 a.m. on the last day of session, it got voted down by the largest margin ever be seen to have something voted down. But unfortunately for us, they have a thing called, what's that again, Brenda, called? Reconsideration. Reconsideration. So basically, the bill is still alive in its current form and just waiting to be voted on again if they vote if they choose to vote on it. But since the state is so focused on COVID-19 issues, it probably won't come up, because unless it's a bill related to COVID-19 relief and recovery and things like that, the legislators are being pressured into just dropping their legislation and waiting for the next session to do it after we've got through the woods here with COVID-19. So we've had many city and county efforts. We've advocated with the Long Beach City Council. We've talked to a lot of city council members, and we're going to try to get Long Beach City to actually have a resolution saying they didn't want it. As you know, with Los Angeles City Council, we got a resolution out of them. We went to the Board of Supervisors and we got Hilda Solis to write a letter saying she was not in favor of this. We also had the Los Angeles County Alcohol and Drug Commission, the body that recommends policies to the Board of Supervisors to say that this is not a good legislation and that the board should not favor it. We also, in a surprising turn of events, got the Los Angeles County Democratic Party to say that they were not in favor of the bill. And so, through a lot of hard work, a lot of, phone calls, visits here, there, and everywhere, we amazingly got a lot of support to say that they were not in favor. And, with that support, it made it possible for the SB 58 to be defeated. So the next thing I want to bring to your attention is Kappa has a summit every year where we recognize what we're doing and who helped us, and also, what we plan to do in the future. We invite all our members and several legislators so that we can collaborate and talk about, what's going on with alcohol in the state of California. We award several people the Kappa Alcohol Prevention Hero Award. ABC comes by and they do a little briefing, letting us know what they're up to and how they want to support us in our efforts. And it's just a great little way to just kind of like catch up on what's going on in California as far as alcohol is concerned. As you can see, if anybody's ever been to the endowment, this is their big room that often the tobacco people use to have their meetings. We use this room and then a bunch of breakout rooms where we had small little sessions on different topics. That's Senator Lackey there. He was a big proponent of defeating the SB 58, and we work closely with him. He's a Republican, and he sees it as we see it. It's like there's nothing good that can happen by having bars stay open to 4 a.m. And I don't know who these fools are. I meant this is Mike Sippa, Carson, Bruce Livingston, and our friend Myra from Alcohol Justice. So we had a lot of cool things that people could take pictures and do things with. Try to make it interesting for the folks. Here's some of the swag. As you can see that we're promoting the Stop the Wieners 4 a.m. bar bill. Here's one of the breakout sessions being presented by Jorge Castillo, one of the people that works for Alcohol Justice. And then from Kappa came the LGBTQ caucus. We saw a need because Senator Wiener was often using the LGBT community as the reason why he was putting forth this bill, saying that they desperately wanted this and that they deserved it. And many of our members who were part of that community too were like, no, that's not true. So we endeavored to build up a caucus so that that would have a voice and be able to talk about public health and safety issues that really concern them and not be used as some kind of token to try to get a bill passed. And as you can see, we have a lot of members that really support the bill. So the mission of the LGBT caucus was, our goal is to organize and activate the collective to address issues impacting the quality of life of the LGBTQ plus community. And you don't know how long it took us to make that mission, but it's well worth it because it came out perfect. And then our vision is going to be, hold on, to amplify LGBTQ plus voices to advocate for policies to protect our community. As you can see that this is a picture taken in San Francisco that our caucus went to advocate against the 4 a.m. bar bill. We're also at the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Van Nuys, and we made sure people understood what we were about, and we found a lot of allies and people are saying, yeah, okay, yeah, we like to drink, but maybe 4 a.m. isn't good for our community. Here's some more Pride events. And here's if you want to get involved with the LGBTQ plus caucus, is a flyer showing how you can get involved. We have an Instagram and a Twitter, and we meet every first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. So if you're interested, just go ahead and either email me or Brenda, and we can get you in touch with the organizers.
Yeah, and I definitely highly encourage you all, especially if you're, you know, particularly strong on advocating for this community in particular. We do move at a local level, but we also move at a state level, and we do try to also address other concerns that impact the community other than just alcohol policy. And I think it's another way to not only leverage, but really expand on other efforts and try to address some of the other factors and issues that also contribute to the major issues that we find with alcohol policy. And, you know, especially how they try to use the community as a token or any of those other things when they're disregarded or completely silenced in a way from using their voice. So if you're particularly interested in joining this caucus, I definitely encourage you to reach out to us. And like the info is there. We meet every first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. via conference call. So definitely encourage you guys to be a part of that as well.
Cool. All right. So here's the website. Here's the number. And it's the second Monday? I thought it was it says something on the other side, but just call and confirm, and we'll give you the meeting details. So any thoughts, questions?
Okay, William rose his hand, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you, William. And go ahead.
Hi, this is William. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, thanks. Thinking about something maybe for future discussion with ABC, and perhaps if there's a state legislator that's interested in this. It has to do with a person's information when they file a protest with ABC, and that's a public record. And we had some conversations here in San Diego about people who have protested ABC licenses having the applicant or someone on their behalf showing up on their doorstep, trying to convince them to drop their protest, calling them on the phone, or even some forms of intimidation going on there when they show up and yelling at them. So what I understand is that protest information is a public record, so you can't make it redact it to where a person's anonymous. But what I asked here locally with our ABC was, could a rule be put in place where on the protest form, the applicant could check a box that says the only contact that they want is in writing. So if there's a written record, if there's some type of intimidation or something going on, heavy-handedness, there's a written record of it, because on the phone or in person, you're not going to have that record. And what we were told by ABC is that would have to be a state law change, that a local district could do something like that on their own. So I'm just putting it out there that when you talk to your community members and stuff, if they've had those type of experiences where there has been that pushback by the applicant or someone on their behalf for protesting an ABC license, it preserves the best of both worlds. The information is still public, but the protestant then has the choice. If I would check the box that says I only want to be contacted in writing on this, it preserves a little bit of their, protects them for protesting, and the information is still there to the applicant, so they'll know who's protested, but it limits the opportunity for someone to be intimidated.
Yeah, sounds like a very valid concern. We have quarterly meetings with ABC all the time, so you're more than welcome to join.
Okay, I would ask the question of the ABC director directly. I don't
Okay.
know.
He shows up sometimes.
Yeah, let us know when the meeting is. I'm happy to ask.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just shoot us an email so that we can know who you are, and and how we can get in contact with you.
We've spoken before by phone, Gilbert. It was on the party buses and marijuana.
Oh yeah, I remember you.
And
Yeah, that was crazy. But
yeah,
anyways,
we got that fixed. That got fixed, but it happened at the last minute, and that's credit to Governor Newsom for fixing that.
yeah, definitely.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. So yeah, just shoot me an email
Thank
again.
you for bringing that concern. And obviously, as both local coalition and a state coalition, we are more than open to hearing other concerns that maybe we are not aware of. And that's definitely what we are there for. So definitely encourage you to be a part of CAP and bring maybe some of those greater issues to light that we probably weren't aware of. So thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I think you're good for now.
Okay. So I'm going to pass the baton back to my partner.
I take it. So question for you all, what are some of the ways that organizations or coalitions have been intentional with including diverse partners, whether it's your SPA coalition or whatever local coalition that you are a part of? What are some of those ways that you guys make sure or ensure that you include diverse partners? Hit the chat box or raise your hand, either way. All right, then if that's not the case, then we are gonna learn today. Move it forward. All right, so as we look at the coalition work that we do, both on the state level and locally, we try to ensure that we look at the issues through a social justice lens, meaning that we take into account, especially when we advocate for policies or we try to motion one ourselves, how equitable is it, and how do we take into account all the different diverse groups that would be impacted by such a policy. For example, you know, I work and live in the city of LA, knowing what a big melting pot that is, and just how even just within this city, even within just one particular district in the city of LA, each community, each neighborhood looks very different. So how do we take into account policies and how they impact, you know, the diversity of what each of those communities looks like is something that we look at. We also look into how do we elevate community voices, you know, particularly those that are heavily impacted in, you know, low-income communities, communities of color, working families. How do we take into account their voices and just how policy affects them particularly? Language justice. One of the things that I really like about LA DAPA actually is that we alternate. Every other month, we have our meetings in English or Spanish. And it is something that has really made the moms that are involved within our coalition a lot more comfortable and a lot more vocal in how they are involved in our coalition. When they come to the rallies and when they come to the meetings that we set with elected officials, they feel a lot more comfortable voicing their concerns because we're also taking into account the language that they speak. So that is something that we try to do and push forward. So that's the cool thing about having a diverse group, and me myself being that Spanish is my first language. It's really cool to be able to incorporate that into the coalition and really make people feel more comfortable and at ease to participate. And it definitely does make the coalition a lot more inviting to be a part of. Like Gilbert showed with the LGBTQ plus caucus, you know, integrating more of that representation. As being a member of the community myself and being able to elevate those voices, I think that's very important because sometimes we push our work so much and we, you know, tend to kind of get so caught up in like what needs to be done with per the work plan or the policy itself that we sometimes kind of I don't want to say we disregard, but we kind of sometimes leave out the other voices and just how important it is to bring every diverse group into the conversation. We also try to make an intergenerational approach. So we try to involve kids, youth, parents. As you can see in this picture, this was such a cute moment, but having little kids be involved. And I think that's also another way that we can start molding and building up young advocates. So we do try to incorporate that as much as we can. We have to be honest that, you know, sometimes it is a little more challenging with youth being more involved in school and stuff like that. But we are always trying to find ways that we could incorporate and include youth voices as well. And, you know, being culturally competent and again, being able to take into account and not disregard all the other factors and issues that play into alcohol policy, not just trying to push forward our agenda and our goal, but really taking into account all the voices of all the people that are involved. And if we are to try to get their involvement and participation, you know, really taking, you know, into account their concerns and some of the issues that they also see factor in, and of course, a family first agenda. Next slide. Next slide. And go back to the picture just to kind of like highlight that moment. Gilbert. Okay. So with this one, what I like about that picture is, as you can see, there was a mom speaking and she had brought her family, but again, it's just kind of like elevating and how do we really incorporate, you know, the community in. Like Gilbert said before, we can't lobby, but we can definitely equip and build capacity with our community members so that they can feel comfortable and they can then be more vocal about the particular issue or the particular policy at hand, because we're building them up and they can do what we can't as being funded through the government. But it's just another way that as a coalition, you could definitely expand on your resources. You can expand on your efforts when you incorporate more and more people. We focus on leveraging resources, whether it be staff time. How do we leverage with all the policy advocates and all the public health you know, organizations that are involved? How do we give each one a role? How do we leverage what everybody can bring to the table to better, you know, push our efforts, whether it be how we you know, spread out the work, whether it be through the committees or, you know, just getting more and more people involved in building that up so that we can be of more efficacy as we advocate. Having more community contacts and trying to incorporate more diverse groups and organizations other than just public health professionals, you know, trying to see how we can also work with those government officials that could be potential allies and, you know, kind of give us a little more oomph to the advocacy work that we bring in and so forth. Next slide, please. And of course, strengthening relationships. Love this picture because it's very reminiscent of the Beatles, but that was our own version. Basically, strengthening, obviously, not just the relationships that we have with one another as public health professionals, but also being able to build those relationships, like I said, with the moms, being able to make them feel comfortable to participate, being able to expand with other groups, like at CAPA level, being able to work with MAD and just any of the other particular groups that are a part of CAPA. How do we collaborate and how do we also incorporate some of the other issues that they also focus on that either way somehow also play a role or are affected by alcohol policy? How do we build the relationship with our elected officials, you know, whether it be at the state level or local level? I kind of really love how, you know, given that we, at this point, we should have our own office at City Hall. I'm just saying, but I kind of really do like that feeling of when we're strolling in and they're kind of looking at us, rolling their eyes, like here they come again. It's like they already know that we are not going to stop and we're going to continue to push forward with the work that we're pushing forward and just kind of showing them that we're not giving up, and showing them that there is power and there is strength in numbers, and being able to incorporate other people into the table. So that's really cool to be able to still have that connection with them. And sometimes it does pay off and sometimes it doesn't, but one way or another, whether they hate us or love us, they know us, and that's important in coalition and policy work. Having those relationships with their staff members as well, because they also connect us and are able to either highlight or basically be the champion for whatever policy we are trying to move forward with. So having them close, really pays off. Having media exposure and being able to have those media contacts, whether it be for press conferences or rallies, they're there. They show up, and they also not only show the city officials that we have that media exposure, but we also highlight an issue to the rest of the community, whether it be through the news or interviews or radio or whatever you may have. But that's another way to definitely expand on the efforts. And of course, the relationships that we have with one another and how we try to leverage our work and each of our resources. Next slide. Adaptability. This is a very important one. Right now, as we all know, we're having all these meetings and having to rely heavily on technology to stay not only in contact with one another, stay pushing the work forward, but also the other part of the conversation is how do we continue to have our members engaged and still stay involved in each of the coalitions during a time like this, where all we really have is technology. And I know that at the CAPA level, I know that they've still been trying to have Zoom meetings with some of the government officials to still kind of showcase, like, yes, I know that this is going on, but we still have work at hand and we still have to push, forward. And being able to continue to have those meetings is important. And I know on the local level, with LA DAPA, I know we've had a couple of meetings with government officials, but another focus that we're trying to I guess hone in on is how do we continue to have that community member engagement. So out of the community committee, we're basically developing little wellness series and kind of like Facebook Live sessions where we kind of just continue to keep the moms engaged, whether it be through just local issues or just things that concern them, and how do we take advantage of this particular moment to be resourceful. We might not be able to push too much alcohol policy, but then how do we also make ourselves more useful as a coalition and bringing resources to the community that meets their particular needs at this specific moment. So that's something that we're focusing on, and we're going to be having a little like cafecito with la etapa sessions that we're excited about. So, keep an eye out for that, but it's just another way to creatively keep our community members engaged in the coalition. So when we get back to pushing the work forward, we still have that base. So there's something to be said about still being able to, adapt to the time and whatever circumstances to still keep community members and also just, your coalition members engaged during times like this. There's definitely many ways that you can do that. Obviously, technology right now is like our biggest friend, even if it fails us at times. But right now, that's another way that we can build our base. And also, I think it's a cool downtime to build up our social media platforms and continue to bring other people into the mix and into the conversation. So that's something that we're constantly working at both the state level and local level. Next slide. And of course, if you want to be a part of the change, I know some of you already have been, and we thank you for the work and resources that you've put and brought to a lot of our advocacy efforts. But this one was taken in Carson, actually, at one of our rallies for the bar bill. But you can still definitely partake. It's never too late to join the cause. So you can always be a part of either Kappa or LA-DAPA, and keep this in mind. And justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and that's where we come in. So definitely could reach out to us, whether it be Gilbert, Veronica for Kappa, or Sarah Blanche or myself for LA-DAPA. But the work moves forward, and we can't stop, we won't stop, and we invite you to be a part of it as well. Next slide. See, look how beautiful it is to be a part of this group. But anyway, this was again at one of our rallies, and I believe this was at Santiago's office. So again, the barbell is coming up, so the work doesn't stop. We can definitely all leverage our resources and be a part to stop it. Yet again, I like to think of ourselves as the Chicago Bulls of prevention, back-to-back wins. But anyway, if you have any thoughts or questions on either the state or local level work, hit the chat box or raise your hand and we'll be more than happy to answer.
So someone in the chat says, hashtag the last dance.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, if only.
I mean, if they want to keep dancing, I'm Latina and I could dance all night, so it would be no thing to dance in circles around prevention too. So
Michael says, please continue to take action against SB 58 by texting justice to 313131.
yes, that's key. Stay tuned for all of our action alerts, y'all, because that's another way that we're able to, if you can't make the phone call yourself, but you can text, that's one way to do it and make your voice be heard.
I'm right in the middle of it. No, I can't, dear.
See your face the whole time.
I'm talking.
And they're coming. I don't.
Yeah, so any other thoughts or questions?
And feel free to raise your hand if you want to speak and you don't want to type out your long message or anything like that.
Okay, I think we're good to go.
Okay.
Alright.
Oh, we actually have 2 comments / questions. So
Okay, awesome.
says, it's awesome that you stayed on top of the adjusted bill and acted accordingly.
Thank you.
And Marlon asked, how do you balance all the coalitions? There's RAM and others too, right?
That is a great question. I ask myself that all the time. But I think it's just a matter of being able to, be a part of committees. And I think a lot of the bulk of any advocacy work is done through the committees that we are a part of. And then obviously we convene in our main meetings, but just being able to balance it and being able to, I think, that's where you leverage resources and try to have people take tasks and we assign roles and stuff like that. So the work doesn't really just fall on one person. We try to leverage our resources as best as we can. And we try to kind of have each committee focus on different roles and different tasks to move the
And each of us has
forward.
a team. And each of us has a team. So it's like, we'll split the duties every once in a while. It's like, okay, you can go to that coalition. Well, I'll go to this coalition. And then when we come together, we'll talk about it and see where we go. And, it's a matter of priorities too. It's like if something big is happening right now in LA-DAPA, of course, okay, we're going to put a little more effort there. And then, but still try to, keep up with the other coalitions, everything isn't happening all the time at all times, so it's just a matter of being able to, I don't know how to explain it. Just, time management in simple terms. It's just like, you realize, where the squeaky wheel is right now. So that's where you're going to put the grease and where you're going to keep working at. And then, as that lulls, then you move on to the next task. So it's a task oriented thing. It's like, depending on the task and how often you need to be addressing it, you do.
Okay, I'm looking at the chat here.
Has a question.
Um,
What if you can't have a Zoom meeting?
we tried the other platforms like Google Hangouts, Meets, WebEx, just conference calls. Try to make it as best as we can.
I mean,
Especially in this particular time that we can't do face-to-face meetings. We try to work with what we have and move forward that way.
yeah, conference calls are the old adage. It's like everybody usually has a phone of some sort.
Mhm.
So
Or
it's just a
Facebook.
matter of, or Facebook. Yeah, you can do Messenger. I think Messenger does that thing now too, where you could do group ones. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. You just need to figure out what works best for everybody.
And the last question is from Stephanie, who said, do coalitions ever become too big and need to break out?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know that they become too big that you can. I think if anything, that's a plus because then you're able to really, I think, strengthen each of your committees because there's more people to work at the different tasks at hand. So the more people you have involved, the better you could leverage resources and really expand your efforts. And you're not having the same people kind of doing all the work. So that's why we're constantly trying to grow. So the more people you have, and I think there's a greater payoff when you try to involve more people other than public health professionals. I think we're all great, but we're like, somebody else mentioned, we're all a part of different coalitions. So really trying to bring other membership, other groups into the conversation, into our efforts really helps out to not only leverage those resources, but really be able to have other people or groups do things that maybe we cannot as, public health professionals, but also it allows us to expand our work a little more.
I would like to, have her expand on what does she mean too big? I mean, what does she mean by too big? Because, I don't know. I've never had the experience of having a coalition that was too big. It's usually we're too small or, we don't have enough members to effectively do what we want to do.
Oh, okay. So
Stephanie responded with, in terms of it being the focus or too many agencies.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that is a matter of leadership, I guess, of establishing quote unquote bylaws, whatever you want to call them, so that everybody is on the same page at all times, so that people know what's expected when you're in the coalition. Yeah, but there can't be too many agencies. I mean, unless the agencies are conflicting and not, they don't have the same goals, and maybe, the ones that don't have the same goals could find another coalition. I don't know, but I mean, I don't understand. Yeah, because there's
I'm interjecting real quick. When it comes to too many agencies, I think that could be a benefit, but obviously it would be of just being able to, again, have a strong communication, being able to really, if you do have different committees, try not to have all the agencies join that, one committee, like trying to be able to spread them throughout the different committees. And that's, as far as focus, that's why we have, at least like for LA DAPA, we have like a timeline that we work with. That's one of the reasons we convene at a summit every year, is we try to restructure the year and how we're going to move forward with each of the campaigns that we're working on. So we try to have a strategic timeline as to how that's going to roll out. So like, for example, right now, we already had a timeline as to how we wanted to move with the BN campaign, but then COVID happened. And so how do we adapt that, and how do we restructure our timeline to focus on the things that matter right now, but still be able to, kind of build on that. So right now we're kind of, taking time to, as a coalition, really, redefine what BN really means. And it gives us more time to really expand on that campaign and how that's going to look. We're definitely going to have more media content and social media presence to kind of start expanding that out, but also gives us time to really, as a coalition, restructure the motion itself. So, you know, I think it's just being able to be adaptable and being able to have a structure to the work that you're doing. If there is no structure, if there is no timeline, then yeah, it's going to be a little trickier and harder to push the work forward. But, you know, if you have strategies and you have a timeline and, you know, you make each meeting, you know, checking up on where you're at in the timeline, I think you're able to really move the work forward on
Yeah.
whatever campaigns you'd be working on.
Yeah, definitely. It has to be goal oriented, you know. Nobody likes sitting
Mhm.
in a meeting that you plan 24/7 and never actually follow through with the plan. So yeah, you
Mhm.
have to have goals. You have to have set times of what you want things to be done. And you got to have a consensus on how it's going to get done. You know, you make sure everybody's in the conversation and everybody has an opinion, but then eventually you guys come to some kind of agreement that this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Mhm.
Okay, we've got some feedback, many thank yous, great advice, goal-oriented, great presentation. Chanti, I had been in the 4 a.m. Barbell rally and meeting with elected officials several times. It was great work efforts with you all, strong, determined minds there. And a
Oh,
lot of
thanks.
great work, and thank you. So if there isn't any more questions, I guess we'll just leave it last second, last question
Mhm.
from this wonderful audience. Okay. Go ahead and take a snapshot of Brenda and Gilbert's information. So,
It's G Mora, not B Mora.
yes, that's supposed to be Mora, not B Mora.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a G, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
And go ahead, if you have questions in the future, please go ahead and give them, you know, contact them. Gilbert, if you wouldn't mind, you know, to stop sharing your screen, and we'll go ahead and close this out.
Mhm.
And hold on. The last screen share here. Oops. Okay. Actually, is that a thumbs up? Yes. Okay, so everybody, you know what? Can we do a thank you? I don't know if they could hear you, but if we could do a thank you to Brenda and Gilbert on a most excellent informational workshop. And
Thank you, guys.
right on. And
Thank
so,
you for the opportunity.
amazing job. Thank you again. So if you take a look in the chat box, you will see a link to both the post-test and evaluation. And please share. And please note also, if you're planning for your CEUs and certificates, once you complete everything, those will be sent to you or emailed to you by the end of the month. This and next week, week 5, registration for that will close this coming Thursday. So please take a look at the scheduled trainings for next week: LGBTQ, understanding the T, general information on problem gambling disorder, human traffic and commercially sexually exploited children for service providers, vaping, smoking cessation, and COVID-19. And Friday, on the last day, will be mindfulness. And the following Saturday, week 6, workshops will open up for your registration. And at that, we can consider this workshop coming to conclusion. And thank you again, Brenda, and thank you again, Gilbert. Wonderful job.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
And again, may the 4th be with you.
Yes, may the 4th be with you.
Waka, waka, waka.
Nice.
Yeah, we're not bed jackets. I know it's too hot to wear jackets.
Or do we stay on? Do we get off? What do we do?
So presenters should be on.
Just a few moments, please.
Okay.
Mhm.
In my pocket, got that. Let me see.
Wait, let's see you guys.